Hey, this is Professor Homa, and we're going to work on path practice, and we're going to practice making vector curves as we draw. Instead of making points that connect and then converting them later, we're going to do it right away as we're drawing. It'll make it more efficient and faster. These are the three files we're going to work with. We're going to start with path practice, move on to fish trace, and then the Broncos logo, which will take a little longer, and that'll lead into a project where we'll do some vector tracing and then incorporate some Photoshop work. The first file that I'm going to open is path practice, and I already have it open here. I just double clicked it and opened it. And one thing that you want to do when you first open up, zoom in as much as you can. You could do Command plus on a Mac or Control plus or minus on Windows. And I want to zoom in and look at each of these. There's A, B, and C, A, B, C, and D on here, and they cover each aspect of drawing vector paths. And the first one is the most simple one. And keep in mind that we have kind of a working layer, layer 1, and then on layer 2 is kind of the things that we're tracing over. They're on layer 2, so we have them locked so we don't mess with them right now. Now, working on layer 1, one thing that you want to make sure you do, we're going to be working with your pen tool, and you want to make sure that you have no fill color. So you could do this down here, or you could go up here and change your fill color to none, give it the red slash, and for a stroke color, just change it to something bright. You could use red, green, anything that'll show up nice and bright on here, and that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to start drawing with that. And if you see these little green lines that are showing up, I'm going to take them off right now. That's under View, and they're smart guides. I'm going to turn them off. Sometimes I find them annoying. And what I'm going to do right now is instead of, normally when we kind of trace things, and this is just an arch, and obviously we could make this from a circle and chop it, but what we did in Computer Graphics 1 is we would kind of click, and then we'd click and get kind of a triangle shape. Then we'd go and take our other tool, our Convert tool, and drag on the middle anchor point and pull handles and kind of make a curve, which is fine. That's a fine way to do it. We have 3 anchor points. It's not an overly excessive amount of anchor points, but when we start tracing bigger projects or ones that have a lot of anchor points, it can be kind of efficient to go back and do it that way. So we're going to try and do it so that we can make vector points as we go and actually make the curves as we go. Instead of doing it afterwards, instead of making all straight line segments and then curving them after the fact, we're going to do it as we go. And it's not that hard, it just takes a little practice. So I'm going to go back to my pen tool, and what we're going to do with the pen tool, when you drag, it'll actually pull out handles in the direction that the curve is meant to go. So for this one, we're going to drag handles that go up. We're going to have 2 handles that kind of go up on either side, and they'll control either half of the curve. Now, it'll be easier once I do this to see that, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and drag. So I'm going to click and drag up, and nothing happens yet. I just made an anchor point, and I'm going to drag up to that blue line I put there as a guide. And then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to click and drag down in one motion. And you can see what happened. It made a curve. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hover over this point and click. You see that little wedge there? That's a convert. It's going to suck in one of the points, and then I'm going to be done. And then I'm going to hold my command key. You could go back to your selection tool, or you could hold your command key and click to deselect it. Now, one thing I just want to show before I go through and do this again is, remember, if you click up and then you forget to click and drag, it's going to do something like that, which it has one handle controlling half the curve, and then there's no handle over here. That's why it just goes straight into the anchor point. So that's why we're going to go and kind of make handles as we go, which control the curve, because we need 2 handles to kind of control this arced curve. So I'll hit delete again, and I'll do it one more time. I'll just drag up, and you could even hold shift when you drag up. That'll keep the handle straight. And then I'm going to click and drag down, and then I'll leave go. I'll leave go of my mouse, and then I'll just hover over here, and I'll click, and that'll be it. And then I'll hold Command to deselect that. And now I'm going to move down to the next one, and this is kind of this S shape. It even reminds me, we had these little green worms we used to drive when we were little that kind of looked like this, these inchworm things. That's what this kind of reminds me of. But these are all curve points. Just like the other one we did, we only have handles that work like seesaws. So if I go and I'll do this quick, I'll drag up, I'll drag down, and that's how we did the other one. And now I'm just going to drag back up again. And I'm just dragging up, down, up, down. So that's the process here. Up, down, up, down. If it's not perfect, don't worry about it. Don't go back and try to drag handles. And I'm still going to get in the habit of clicking on this last point. And if it isn't perfect, what you're going to do is go back with your direct selection tool and then tweak some of these these direction handles after the fact. Don't do it with your pen tool. Go back. It may never be perfect when you do it. This is meant to be an operation where you're going to go back and kind of edit a little bit. But that's all you're doing here. These are all curve points. These are all handles that work like a seesaw that make a smooth transition from one point to the next. And I'll just hit delete, delete, and I'll do it one more time. I'll go back to my pen tool just to show how easy it is. We're just dragging up, dragging down, and we're just going up and down. That's all we're doing. And that's it. Just a little tweaking with my direct selection tool, the white arrow. I'll hold Command and click off it. Move this in. The next one I'm going to do here, these are just little scallop ridges here, and they could be either way, going up or going down. This is like the top of a fence. What's going to happen here is we're still going to start off with the top arch. So I'm still going to drag up and drag down. Okay, but before I drag again, I can't go over here because what's going to happen, it's going to do that. So I'll undo that. And what I want to do is I want to hold down my Option key. So hold down Option. It'll turn your cursor into this convert tool. And then you could move it around, almost like the hand of a clock, move it around to like 12 o'clock. And that means that that handle is now going in an up direction. So it'll control that first part of the curve. And then when I drag, I'm going to be controlling the second half of the curve. It's going to pull out a handle. See that top handle now that's coming out up there? That's controlling the second half of the curve. So I have this handle controls the first half. This handle controls the second half. Now this one is controlling the next one, which is going down. It shouldn't be going down. So I'm going to hold Option and I'm going to drag it around. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to drag down. I'm going to hold Option and drag it around. Same thing here. Drag down, hold Option, and drag it around. Drag down. Now I don't have to hold Option. I don't have to move it again. I could just eliminate it by clicking on the point. So I'll hit delete, delete. I'll just do it one more time. And this time I'll do it with that little song. It goes drag up, drag down, hold Option, and flip it around. And if you remember that little song, drag up, drag down, hold Option, flip it around, you'll be fine. Now, there'll be different ways we could do this. You can drag the handle actually back into the point. That's another way you could do it, but I'm just holding Option. And you may, if it was a different kind, these are repetitive, so we're dragging the handle the same way, but there's different ways you could obviously, turn the handle to be. So again, Option, and this could be a little tricky grabbing on it sometime. I'll hold Option, grab on that point. And again, when I finish it off, I'm making sure, and if it's something like that happens, it got disconnected here, that happens, I'm just going to go right on this point, and I should actually select it. So I'm on it, and I'll go back to my pen tool. I'll go back to my pen tool. So if this happens, you can actually drag right on the point and connect it. And now I'll move that around, and now I could kind of reconnect it again. So even if you mess up, there's always ways you can kind of fix it. So I'll hold Option, suck that back in, and I'm done with that one. I'll hold Command. Now the last one I'm going to do here is we have an arc, and then we have straight line segments, and then an arc. So we have a little bit different here. We're not even going to use handles that get flipped around. So this will be a little different. So on this one, we're going to start the same way. We're going to drag up, we're going to drag down, and also one other thing, I didn't mention this, but it may happen to you. The reason you want to deselect this too, because if you start drawing another one over here, it's going to connect it. And you don't want this connected. So make sure that you deselect before you start drawing a new one, or you're going to have a line that's connected to it. So let me start this over again. I'll drag up, drag down. Now this is where I flipped it around. Now you could do this. You could actually grab this and bring it back into the handle. But what we're going to do is we're going to go right on this point and suck it in. And that way you could make a straight line segment. Now that I made one straight line segment, you might say, well, now I need a handle going down to control this curve. That's fine. Go right on here and drag it down, and then go on here and drag it up. Now again, I don't want this, so I'll click on here, make sure you get the wedge, suck that in. I'll make a straight line segment and just click. Now I'm going to drag up, drag down, and click on this last anchor point to suck in the handle. And I'll do it one more time. Drag up, drag down. That's the way this exercise started. And then I'm going to click here to get rid of that point like we were doing at the end. And then click once, and you could get off it and leave go. Now you could go right on this point and drag a forward handle. And when I say forward, I mean it's the one going on the next line segment that we're going. So that controls the first half. Then when I drag here, it pulls out one behind it that's controlling the second half. This handle is controlling the next line segment, which I don't want. So I click it. I click again to make a line segment. And then I'm going to drag up, drag down, and then click on the point to suck it in. So that's path practice. That's all you have to do for A, B, and C. You could try these a couple times until you get familiar with it or until you get good at it. Maybe you do know how to do this already, but it will make you faster as far as tracing things than making a lot of straight line segments and then clicking after the fact. The next one we're going to do is going to be the fish trace.